Welcome to DC.
And here it comes. Swing and a miss. And a World Series Game 7 winning Curly W is in the books.
Dagger! It's 1974. The Washington Capitals are the 2018 Stanley Cup champions.
Don't like that. I like that.
You gotta like that, right?
Despite all this, despite the churn, my approval ratings keep going up.
We are ready to give our 500% support back to this franchise, back to this city, back to this team after Snyder leaves. And then this is the poo-poo you put on the field.
For the very first time, the Washington Mystics are WNBA champions.
The Washington Commanders select Jaden Daniels.
I'm going to support fake teams that can't ruin my life.
Did you call bank? I call game.
Thank you. Sorry to keep you waiting. Complicated business.
Oh my goodness. The season has finally ended. It's actually crazy to think we've been doing this for basically like 20 weeks at this point. It's crazy that it's all over and the offseason now is finally here. And I got to be honest, how much I didn't watch every second of that last game of the season. And typically the Super Bowl is appointment television and we're going to cover the whole thing and we love it and blah, 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 and all the fun stuff. But the honest truth, FP, is I couldn't get myself to get excited about this game at all to start. And then once I got into it a little bit, it was over basically in a quarter. And Pete from Philly and Phil from Philly, all of the from Phillies, just insufferable all night long. And it continued this morning. I don't understand why you trash your own city when you win. There's so many like different things I want to pick apart this game. But it was actually a terrible football game. Like we talked about this. What was it, 2 weeks ago, FP? We said like the matchup everybody wants to see is Buffalo and DC. Yes. I remember making the rhyme and everybody gave me a hard time about it, but that's what the nation wanted to see. We didn't get that. It's just a bad game. It was a bad everything. And I don't want to spend 45 minutes talking about it, but it was a big letdown for what otherwise was really a really good NFL season.
Yeah, I mean the NFL season as a whole, for sure. The quality of the NFL, I think, referee aside, has gone up. And with this game in particular, surprisingly, the refs didn't play a part in it at all, which is, there's a headline there somewhere. The pundits were talking about it somewhere. But yeah, the game, I watched the game and I'm like, that's the formula, right? Build from the inside out. That's the formula. Eagles got it right. Howie Roseman is a genius. Adam Peters take notes, right? Like that's all I could get out of it. It was a trash game. It is just trash halftime show, trash everything. Donald Trump's tweeting about getting rid of the pennies in the middle of the game because he's so bored. Like it was just a bad product for how good wild card, divisional, and conference championship weekend was, especially for DC fans.
Yes.
When you end it all with that, is disappointing. It's disappointing. The broadcast stuff. Tom Brady getting the Super Bowl his first year doing analysis, wearing $3 million watches. Like the whole thing is.
It was $750, but
there's two watches.
Certainly,
pregame was $3 million.
That's true. It's one of these things, FP, where the game. It's always hard for the Super Bowl to live up to the hype. It just is, right? I mean, the 2 weeks of football leading up to it, forget about Pro Bowl week or Skills week or whatever they call it. Those last 2 weekends of football prior to the Super Bowl are the Super Bowl, right? Like these are the final, 6 teams, 4 teams. And then you get to the final 2 and there's all this buildup. And again, like maybe because we're DC based, like I hate the Eagles. I love Saquon. It's very hard to cheer against him. But like the Eagles and Sirianni and the faces, and I gotta, like, this pains me to say, man, but they came off really likable, like as individual human beings. Again, forget about the city and forget about the team. As individuals, I didn't hear one of them do like some crazy weird, Richard Sherman zag on the microphone. There was no Travis Kelce singing weird lyrics. Like it was very hard to I didn't watch a ton of the post game stuff, but yeah, okay. I mean, they won.
I mean, the emotion from Jalen Hurts, who, like, we can hate Philly for the reasons we hate Philly, and a lot of that is just the fan base, right? And the tush push and just kind of their whole
all of it. It's
their
the full
whole
package.
thing, yeah. But Jalen Hurts, the player, right? The man, respectable guy, right? Nobody gives him any benefit, right? Everyone just kind of takes all that he's done in the NFL away from him. He's on a good team, he's on a roster, the play calling, whatever. But the truth is, since he entered the league, 2 Super Bowl appearances, 1 win, all pro, like constantly doing everything right. And everyone, for whatever reason, just wants to knock the guy down. And yeah, when the mic's in front of him, praises God, says we're just here to get the job done, says everything right. Like the guy looks like he's eagerly awaiting to be a 55-year-old man, right? Like he just wants to dress the part and be laid back.
Look, no one has been more critical of Jalen on this show than I have, right? I actually
sure.
I don't think he belongs in that upper echelon of quarterbacks, but
agreed.
When your team asks you to throw the ball 22 times and that's it, he carried it 11 times for 72 yards, right? I'm looking at a box score, 17 of 22, 221, and 2 touchdowns. It was good enough, right? And honestly, they didn't have to do anything else. The story is the Philadelphia defense, and specifically their defensive front. Those boys can get
their secondary, their draft picks, all in all, they hit on every level.
They did, and you just got to give them credit. As annoying as it is, and Pete from Philly, I'm sure he's going to call and be like, "Oh, you didn't give us enough," whatever. I don't want to spend the entire show talking about the Philadelphia Eagles. Personally, I wasn't cheering for them. I don't know where you landed on this, FP, but I wanted the Chiefs to win. I wanted Travis to propose. I wanted him and Tate to go right into the sunset and relieve us of this storyline. But all indications are
from watching the entire NFL season in isolation with LP to openly embracing mutual friends at a party at a house and not giving 2 craps about what was on the TV or really paying attention to it. I left his house. I left our friend's house after the Devontae Smith touchdown in the 3rd quarter. I was like, yeah, all right, this is like, I'm done. I went home. I drove home.
Really, it was done in the 1st quarter. I mean, it was done after 3 possessions. It was. I heard. The junkies were talking about this morning. I think EB said he's like, after 2 possessions, I was done. Like there's just nothing left to watch for. Like the Chiefs, as good as they have been this season in particular, they were not good enough.
They were frauds. They were frauds all year long.
Fraud is strong because they ended. I mean, they beat Lamar, they beat Allen. Like they won some really important games down the stretch.
They were offensive frauds.
I mean, not that we're breaking news here, but what I said was they will not win the Super Bowl because they cannot score 30 points.
Yeah.
Like they cannot do it. And that's for me the most frustrating thing as a Skins football team Commanders fan. If we were 60 minutes.
I hate this take. I hate this take so much.
There's no doubt in my mind that
if I had $1 million, I would be rich. Like it's just a weird comment.
It just pains me because like we did play the Eagles. We're the last team to beat the Eagles, actually, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And yes, we got our ass handed to us when we went to Philadelphia, specifically Saquon. And Saquon didn't do a whole lot yesterday, right? I mean, it's like the Chiefs came in singularly focused on Saquon will not beat us, but they are good enough that they didn't really need him to do much. And Jalen basically played a perfect game. And, for all of the whining about the refs, and I did a lot of it too, I agree with what you said. They were non-factors. There were 2 bad calls in the first maybe 7-8 minutes. One went one against either team, and that was it. I think the AJ Brown, specifically that one on 4th and whatever, that was a really egregious call. But overall, they were non-factors. The Eagles just they dominated. There isn't really another word for it.
It's just the domination comes down to that fact where they had 6 sacks was the final stat line on Mahomes, and they didn't blitz once.
No blitzes.
Like you're saying, Jalen Carter and that D line, and that's like when we come into off-season episode time, and it's time to really dig into the needs of the DC team. You're going to look at a Jalen Carter and kind of the production that you get out of some of those key pieces, and you'll really start to see the difference between what we have on the field, which still overperformed and did great, but you're not going to get 6 sacks without blitzing from
No.
our defense, right? Like, and it's just an completely different tier of performance that the Eagles have right now, and it pains me to say it, but Howie Roseman has been building a fantastic team for 5-6 years. And the only thing I can think of when you revisit it is I'm like, if we had adults in the room and like
This take is worse than my take.
no, but if you had adults in the room prior, like if you had an Adam Peters or Howie Roseman at the start of just the Ron Rivera era, and all you did was you drafted
better, sure.
Not even better, just auto pick
I'm
on
with
your
you.
fantasy draft. You're hitting so many more draft picks.
All right, but no one's been a bigger fan of Adam Peters than you, right? And there's no way
up more than the people are glazing up Kendrick.
Yeah, well, look,
sucks.
We have a longtime friend, Bill Rohland, is about to pop in here. We love Bill. We've done shows with Bill going back. I don't even know how many years. So we're gonna pull him in here in just a second. But before we do, FP, I do want to talk about that halftime show just for 2 minutes here. I didn't understand here. I didn't know. I couldn't. If Kendrick Lamar walked into my home right now without a name tag, I wouldn't know who he was.
Okay.
I couldn't place a single one of those songs except the really super annoying one that apparently is a diss track or something. We have suffered through some really bad halftime shows, in my opinion. That was the worst one I can remember. It was just. I understand there was some subtext, some subcontext there that maybe went over my head, or maybe I'm just not paying enough attention to it. My kids were dying to stay up to see it just because of the spectacle that specifically Beyonce was on Christmas Day, if you recall.
Yeah,
that was a big thing. Am I just too old? Like,
no, you're not. And
not for me. The halftime show
I will go out and I will say this was one of the worst halftime shows ever. And I'm somebody that I have nothing going on in my life. I can read any news article that comes across my phone or my laptop on Reddit, and I'll enjoy it. I'll read everything. I caught every context, every subliminal messaging, everything that's going on. I know all the history between Kendrick and Drake, and I knew it all. I knew from top to bottom the depths of everything.
You're saying it was
this was a terrible show. It was just
how many stars? How many FPs out of 10?
It was like a 3 out of 10. Like it has nothing to do. Like there's so many people that are like, if you didn't like it, you're not for the culture, and you didn't understand it, and the show wasn't for you.
Whatever.
And my whole point was this is the Super Bowl. Like you have 180 million viewers, whatever the number is, that are there for
Capital
football.
One Arena.
Yeah, they're there for football. They're not there to know the intricacies of a hip hop battle. Like they don't care, right? If you don't have the repertoire and the catalog to just have banger after banger after banger songs that everybody hears,
listen, a lot of people
nonstop.
It should have been Drake, and I don't want either.
No, I'm not saying it should have been Drake. No, it just needs to be a song that like your grandparents can recognize, your parents can recognize, that you can recognize, and that your kids don't roll their eyes at.
I'm going to give you a very specific genre that belongs at halftime of the Super Bowl: pop music, as in popular music. Okay.
Yes.
The last performers, or if you go backwards, right? It was Kendrick, obviously, yesterday. Usher, Rihanna, Dr. Dre, The Weeknd, Shakira, and J-Lo, which nobody will ever forget. That was 2020.
Yeah.
Maroon 5, maybe the worst of the bunch in 2019. Justin Timberlake, that one was forgettable too. But then Lady Gaga and Coldplay, I mean, basically pop as well. But like it was bad. I didn't like. Maybe I don't know. Like it was just too much. I didn't understand what was happening. And for a halftime show, again, and I really like the way you phrased that, right? This is not a concert. It's a performance in front of 180 million people that theoretically are there for football, not commercials and not pop culture. So it was interesting. The
whole spectacle of the Super Bowl, slight tangent here. I kind of hate what it's become, right? Like, think about the Redskins Super Bowl, right, of the past, or even like the Elway Broncos Super Bowl, or any of them. It was football driven though, right? Like you have John Madden on the mic, you're talking football. There's a couple commercials, halftime shows like a marching band for like 15 minutes from the local high school, and then Michael Jackson shows up He's
Turns
the
it
first
into a
big
thing.
halftime show.
Yes.
And then the commercialization of the Super Bowl comes, and then you've just been getting further and further away from the Super Bowl, which makes the game harder and harder to win for the actual teams playing.
Well, there was also a lot going on. Like, I don't know why Tom Cruise is doing like a thing before the thing. Like, there's just a lot. 6 o'clock kills me too. And I
will say, if it was the Commanders in, I would have absorbed every.
Well, it would have been a different feel for us because we would have been in the Caesar Superdome. But anyway, it's fine. I'm gonna pull Bill in here just in a second. And again, for anybody that's new to the show, Bill has been. I mean, this show. Bill, I don't even know how far back we go at this point. I think our first show together was 2018, 2019, somewhere in that range. So longtime friend. We thank you as always, for making time for us. I think you're on the road. I think that's what you mentioned to me as well. So thank you for carving out some time. Did you watch the game, the Super Bowl, on the road, Bill?
I was. Can you guys hear me? Okay. First off, I apologize.
Oh,
I'm in a hotel lobby, so we didn't leave till today. So I was home last night, and I watched the first half at my fiance's house. Then I drove back to my house. I have to be up. Not that it matters, but my regular job, I'm up at 4 a.m. every day. So staying up to 11 o'clock to watch a football game is not on my schedule. So thankfully for me, it was enough of a blowout that by the end of the third quarter, I was out. I was done. I was like, I don't need to watch the end of this. It didn't matter. So I didn't see the halftime show because I was driving. I listened to it, oddly enough, on the radio. And yeah, I mean, I'm vaguely familiar with Kendrick Lamar, but it's not for me. So I wasn't insulted. I wasn't like, this sucks. It was just like, this isn't towards me. So, okay.
Yeah,
I'm sure it was great for people who like Kendrick Lamar. I'm sure they loved it. So
I hope so. I mean, that's all I can really say is, I was in the office myself today, actually, and a lot of people were just, oh, that was the best. And it's fine. Like, I'm glad somebody enjoyed it, but I didn't enjoy it. I didn't understand it. And all the subtext, again, I think FP touched on it. Like, I know this may sound rude, but like, I just don't care. Like, if I'm tuning in to something and I'm stuffing my face with pizza and wings, like, I want to be entertained. And at face value, I wasn't entertained. Like, and therefore it doesn't register for me. It is non-memorable in that regard. But Bill, you watch a lot of football. We watch a lot of football. We haven't had you on all season. Any thoughts on the Commanders at large? I mean, the season that was, and I mean, FB, he keeps getting upset with me because I keep saying it, but we were 60 minutes away, maybe 49 and a half minutes away from getting to this game, which I am confident we could have been competitive and won in, but alas, it doesn't happen. What are your thoughts on the Commanders? The full kind of just looking at it now, like a couple weeks removed from the Commanders season now that it's over.
Sure. I mean, I think the first thing you look at is obviously it begins and ends with Jaden Daniels and how well he played during the regular season. The thing that I would say, and I caution Commanders fans going into next season, think about how many games were won late, last drive, last possession, whatever it was. That is a phenomenal way to win games. The clutch factor that they had was amazing. But you look at a team like Kansas City who had the same thing. They had 12 come from behind wins. They had 12 one-possession wins this year. But when they ran up against the team that was just flat better than them, they got their doors blown off. So that's kind of what happened to Washington in the NFC Championship game. They ran up against the better team. They got their doors blown off. There may be a little regression because you are going to play a little bit tougher schedule than this year. Just by the matchups that you're going to have. So the schedule is different. It may be a little bit harder. Look, they could still go 11-6 next year. I don't think there's any doubt about that. 10-7, and that would still be a good year. That's still going to get you into the playoffs. And all you need is to punch your ticket. Once you're in, it's anybody's deal. They're not going away anytime soon. I don't think they're going to suddenly slide back and be 4-13 again. But I caution Commanders fans that are like, oh, all we have to do is get by Philly and it's a done deal. We took care of Detroit. This is a done deal. That is not the way it works. And I had a lot of my friends that are Commanders fans that were kind of the same thing. They're like, oh, we were right there with Philly. We beat them, like you said earlier, Joe.
I believe in my heart, Bill.
We need to put the voice of reason tag under Bill's name because he's bringing it out. And me, for one, I don't want to think that way right now. In my brain right now, Jaden Daniels is the next Patrick Mahomes, and he's going to go to the championship game for the first 9 years of his career, 7 years of his career, whatever.
You know what?
Like, that's it. It's just done deal.
If they build around him, he absolutely could be that type of guy. It's tough because, look, everybody for the 2 weeks leading up to this was talking about Mahomes and the three-peat and what does that do compared to Brady and everything else. That stuff is out the window now for Mahomes. He's had 2 really bad Super Bowl appearances. I mean, historically bad. His final numbers last night will look fine. 3 TDs, 2 touchdowns. I think he finished over 250 yards. But prior to the Xavier Worthy garbage touchdown and everything else, he was terrible. So that's all out the window as far as that goes. Forget being the next Patrick Mahomes. Just be the first Jaden Daniels. And that's probably going to be good enough. But, Joe, like you said, they were the last team to beat Philly. The problem was they were the last team to beat Philly when Jalen Hurts didn't play the entire game.
He was knocked out early in that one.
And it took them. Now, kudos to them for knocking him out of the game or whatever the case may be and for getting that win and coming back. But they still – I need to see it a second year of this clutch gene. You're not going to get another Hail Mary like they did in Chicago. That's once every, maybe once every 2 or 3 seasons.
Sure,
that could have been a loss.
The 2-point conversion drop against the Saints. That I hear you loud and clear.
But it was great. It was great.
It was a phenomenal, magical ride. And I think FP said this a couple weeks ago, and it's become a pretty popular phrase around town. This is likely the worst roster that Jaden will play with for the foreseeable future, right? They have money to spend. There's rumors about this person and this free agent and this and that. Adam Peters has some options here. He can spend his draft capital via trades and just bolster this and see if he can push it and kind of force it into the next year. But he also has the option to slow roll this a little bit, right? And do it through the draft. I mean, I think he hit on every single draft pick he had this year, if I'm not mistaken, FP, right? Everybody contributed in some meaningful capacity for the most part. Yeah. Especially the early rounders. There's very notable holes in that secondary, right? And there's some pieces out there on the free agent market. Miles, apparently, obviously Garrett is the one everyone's talking about, but T. Higgins, there's others, right, that he has levers he can pull, right? If he wants to build this on the fly, he can do it. If he wants to go the Eagles, the Philly way, if you will, and draft these, at positions of need, he can do that. I trust him. I mean, I don't know what else to say. Like the franchise is moving in the right direction. I wish the name, I don't know if you have a thought on this or not, Bill, but I wish the name, at least it's at rest, right? And Harris has said, hey, we're not changing it. Just kind of move past it. I'm okay with Commanders. Like I wasn't 6 weeks ago. I wasn't a year and a half ago. I'm okay with it. It still bothers me to say it. They're always going to be the Redskins to me, but I am actively trying to change, right, how I talk about this team. And I think, again, when you bring this back to Jaden, if he wins in a Commander's uniform, right, like as a fan, I'm perfect.
Winning solves
Give me the 3 stripes on the helmet. Give me the 3 stripes on the jersey. We're good to go. Like let's roll out.
If you roll back to the Gibbs 1.0 uniforms, which everybody's rumoring, that's going to be sort of the recalibration for how the look of the team is. Great. But I mean, talking about the draft picks and kind of what Peters has to do, the biggest point that we have to kind of realize that Peters has to do here is he went into this season thinking like, all right, recalibrate. Let's see what we can do. Let's see what we can get out of this team. Probably with the mindset of a GM of we'll probably have hopefully not a top 5, maybe a top 10 pick in the first, right? Suddenly end of season, you're like, oh, well, we have a bottom 5 pick in the first. That suddenly becomes a little bit more tradable when you have a Myles Garrett out there, when you have some packages that you can put together for premier elite free agents, like premier elite free agents, not stretches, but like Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons, whatever the package is going to be. A bottom 5 first, that's something that I'm comfortable if I'm Adam Peters parting with, as opposed to a top 5, top 10 pick.
And I hope he finds a way to do it. Until he misses. I mean, and maybe the Lattimore thing is a miss, maybe, right? I trust him.
Yeah, I think when you look at the people that are out here, T. Higgins, Deebo Samuel now is wanting to be traded, and I think Washington's one of those places that would absolutely love to have him come in here. I think what Adam Peters has to be careful of, and he knows this better than I do, obviously, is you have this dynamic quarterback in Jaden Daniels. You have to make sure that you're not so dead set on making sure that he has everything that you continue to forget about the defense. Because look how Philadelphia won that game. Yes, their offense put up 40, but a pick six, a short field on another interception, a short field on another fumble, strip sack fumble. It was the defense for Philadelphia that won that. So I hope, and again, he's way smarter than I am, I hope they put a lot of resources into getting a younger, faster, stronger defense, because I think with the weapons you have, the way De'Ami Brown came on at the end of the year, Terry McLaurin had an unbelievable season. You've got enough weapons on offense. You build the defense, and all of a sudden you become that much more dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, Jaden has shown he can Band-Aid and brace the offense, right? He can get it done. But the defense was leaky, right? I was very critical of Marshawn Lattimore down the stretch, and I will continue to be, right, until he proves me, or shows me otherwise. But Bill, I got a question for you specific to Tom Brady, and if you don't want to answer it, I'm not going to put you on the spot. But you are a professional, like an actual professional broadcaster, right, who has a microphone in front of him regularly. How do you feel he did with the Super Bowl, with all eyes on him? I mean, he was terrible to start the season. I think that's universally accepted. I think he did progress and get better. How do you feel, like, from what you heard anyway, his call of the game, like as a professional, when you take in kind of how he is broadcasting and talking to the 150 million people listening, how do you assess him?
I thought he got better as the year went on, from game one to the Super Bowl. I thought he did well at the Super Bowl. I thought that he did a nice job of laying out and letting Kevin Burkhardt call the plays and everything. And he still had the interjections where he would get excited when there was a big play. You would hear him kind of under his breath or underneath the play-by-play going, oh, wow. I thought, did a nice job, too, of explaining things. He talked about his experience. I mean, look, if there's anybody that can talk about being in the Super Bowl and understanding the pressures and being down like Patrick Mahomes and them were down, it's him. He came back from 28-3. So him talking about, hey, they just need one play. They just need something to go right. And he talked about that it wasn't Mahomes that needed to make the play. He said the defense needed to come up with a play. And they never did. And they never helped Kansas City get back into it. I'm not as down on Tom Brady as a lot of people are. I think people criticize him for his broadcasting because they just didn't like him as a player, because he was beating the ass of other teams all the time. Yeah. So they don't like Brady because of that. I didn't have any problems with his broadcasting. Again, game one or two, the first couple of weeks, yeah, he was still trying to feel it out and get his feet wet and kind of settle in. I thought by the time the playoffs rolled around, again, the NFC Championship game, I'm sure a lot of Commanders fans didn't like it because you didn't like the way the game went. But I thought he was very honest in talking about how the Eagles were able to run the ball and they were just going to continue to run the ball and scoring the 55 points the way they did. I thought he was very good in the NFC Championship game. I thought he was good in the Super Bowl as well.
I want to ask a follow-up to that too. Like, just because I'm fascinated with the broadcasting profession. How many hours do you think he's putting in? Or, if somebody handed you the mic, Bill, and said, hey, get ready, you're calling, I don't know, the Hall of Fame game, right? Like, how much time does that really take to prep? I mean, again, he's a couple seasons removed from the sport, but like the real prep that goes into it, there's no way he just shows up, with a roster and says, there's no way. Like, it's coming out a little gargly at times, but the prep is there for sure. It's still Tom Brady.
It's going to sound dumb. Probably easier to call the Super Bowl than the Hall of Fame game. Because the Hall of Fame game, you've got a bunch of guys that are not going to be playing NFL football. You got a bunch of guys that you've never heard of that are going to play 6 snaps, and that'll be the whole itinerary of their entire career.
No flow in the game either.
Yes, exactly, FB. With this, he's got 2 weeks. He's seen all these guys play all season long. 2 weeks to prepare, 2 weeks to talk to guys. He's got a whole staff of people that are doing research and bringing him things. There's hours upon hours. He's probably a guy, I'm guessing, that will sit and watch film of the games and break down. And because of who he is, when he watches film, way different than you and I watching film to prep for a game. Way different. And I've done that in some things with doing Mason basketball. And I'll go back and watch games and we'll talk to some guys and I'll say something that I saw and they'll have a completely different take because they played the game and look at it in a different manner than I do. So I'm sure Brady's doing hours upon hours of work. Now, he's got a staff to help him out, but it's still all up here when he talks about, I don't think it was at the Super Bowl, the game itself. I think it was leading up to it. They were doing some stuff with Fox, and he talked about all the prep work that he did and being able to walk up to the line of scrimmage and notice a way a guy would put his hand in the dirt or notice the way a guy was standing there if it was a linebacker, if he was up on his toes or back or tilting his, and he knew exactly what the defense was going to do. You have that and take it to the level of what he's doing. There's no doubt he's going to be really good at this.
Yeah,
and I apologize. I don't know why my camera just went off.
That's okay, Bill. We can still hear you. Yeah,
we'll figure it out.
I think he, like, of all of the folks that have transitioned from playing to, I mean, there was some notably bad ones. I'm not gonna call any of them out, right? But there was some really horrendous transitions from field to booth. Romo is kind of that golden goose, right? He's the one that everybody kind of holds up and says, hey, his transition was great. Although right now there's a couple sites that rank, right, the announcers. He's actually fallen quite a few steps down or been, knocked down a couple pegs. Whereas Brady started low and is climbing. I actually think his call was fine. There wasn't a whole lot to talk about, though. And I think I would imagine the hardest part of the job is when the game turns into, a one-sided affair. Like, what are you going to talk about? At one point he was joking, well, they only need 4 scores, 4 TDs and 4 2-point conversions. Like, it's still a 4-possession game, as if like that was something like that was possibly going to happen. But, a small part of me just wonders, right? He's sitting in the booth calling a game about, a former opponent in Mahomes who is mentioned regularly in that same breath. You said it. I think it's over now, Bill, right? Like, this is done.
We may have seen, and I mean, look, this is easy to say less than 24 hours from the game being done, but boy, it sure looked like that was the end of the road for Kansas City. Look, they're still going to be in the playoffs. They're still going to be a threat, but they looked old. They looked beat up. They looked discombobulated at times. Now, maybe that's just because the Eagles defense was that elite and that good, but it would not shock me if Patrick Mahomes never got back to another Super Bowl. That would not surprise me in the least. Look at the guys he's competing with. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, if he's healthy and Cincinnati gets things done. Just in the AFC alone, those are probably 3 of the top, 6, 7 quarterbacks in the league that he has to go up against.
Yeah. I mean,
every single year.
Just its conference too.
Right. That's what I'm saying. He's got to get by them. Yeah, he's got to get by them to get to the Super Bowl.
Bo Nix is rising up. Justin Herbert, you're going to imagine, will be doing even better another year in the new Harbaugh offense. So
no doubt, SB, no doubt. And you look at all the times that they've won those 1-score games, and luck or clutch or whatever you want to call it has been on their side. Does that continue for the next 3, 4, 5 years? At some point, it's got to regress to the mean, right? So
at some point, they're going to have to invest in an actual running back. They're going to have to invest,
right,
draft capital in shoring up some of the other skill positions. They've really lucked into, we're just going to grab Juju and make him a wide receiver for 7-8 games.
Yeah.
We're just going to trade for Hopkins and just kind of will it. I mean, I agree with you, Bill. I feel like they did look old. They looked old for the majority of the season. And to Travis Kelce's, to his credit, he's able to turn it on and off. But yesterday, I mean, out of the gate, too many drops, just swarming around. I mean, it was too much for them to overcome. The AFC, the one big takeaway for me is the NFC is in a position now where the winner of the NFC should be favored moving forward. And this is just my own kind of gut feeling here. I think the NFC has better or more complete teams, if that makes sense.
Right.
Whereas the
I
AFC
agree.
maybe has better skilled talent in key positions, right? The quarterbacks you listed are better, in my opinion, but the teams notably the Lions, the Eagles, right? Even the Commanders, maybe to a lesser extent the Commanders, if we're being honest, but the Vikings, these teams are stacked from a roster perspective, even though they're a little bit lesser at the quarterback position. And what was clearly demonstrated is you can't just have that one quarterback a la Tom Brady or early Mahomes just go out there and wing it and make it happen. It just doesn't happen anymore. These teams, like these rosters, are too good from top to bottom. And it was actually a little bit shocking to see that Kansas City's odds-on favorite to be back in the Super Bowl and to win it next year. I don't understand that at all from ESPN. That was I saw that about 2 hours ago. I don't know how they're favored to be, Super Bowl favorites for next year. Nothing to me suggests that they are going to be able to reload that quickly. And frankly, the Eagles, everybody is still under contract. I don't think they have a single notable free agent that potentially is walking away from their team. Maybe I read it wrong, but the Eagles will be back too. So
the Eagles have some big names that are under potential free agents, but they'll probably be kept up. I think the biggest thing here is when you look at Patrick Mahomes' early season to where he is now in his career. Early career to where he is now. I think more people are kind of noticing that and maybe this is just my vision skewed because of Jaden Daniels, but I think he's gone from really good quarterback that has a little bit of magic to him, like the sidearm pass, the no-look pass, whatever, and his escapability. I think, and maybe he kind of bought into his own hype, where he kind of fell away from standard like pocket presence QB, stand in there, slicing.
Saying he got too cute.
He's gotten too cute, and you saw a lot, and that's how you get 6 sacks on a QB without blitzing in the Super Bowl, right? Like, just dink and dunk, throw the ball away. Stop thinking that you're like Mr. Miracle Man and you can always make a play and always find Travis Kelce and always do this stuff. That's not the formula anymore. And I mean, I believe in Andy Reid. I believe in kind of that front office that can constantly build championship teams. And I think that's why the odds are still that they're going to get there until they don't.
If you're Allen in the Bills, or if you're Lamar in the Ravens, and you're watching that game yesterday at home, like that's got to be a different type of pain, right? Like as a Commanders fan, Jaden, okay, maybe punching above their weight class, the talent, the roster, etc. But the Bills were the better team, and they lost to the Chiefs.
Right.
The Ravens, in my mind, beat the Chiefs twice this season on opening night. And then if Andrews doesn't fumble the 2-point conversion or that late, I remember it was 2-point conversion or touchdown or whatever it is. To me, the Ravens beat them twice, right? So that's a different type of just pain, right? To not just to lose to them, but then to have them get absolutely just lit up, on the Super Bowl stage. But yeah,
I would think most of those teams, if you're Baltimore, now their defense got turned around in the back half of the season. But if you're Buffalo, if you're Cincinnati, Baltimore, any of those teams that want to be a threat in the AFC, all you have to do is look at what the Eagles' game plan was, the blueprint. You've got to have a way to get to Mahomes without blitzing him. And if you do, their weapons aren't good enough to beat you. They proved that's exactly what Philadelphia proved. So the blueprint is now there. The other question for me for Kansas City, how long does Andy Reid stick around? Because if he's only going to do a year or two more, then all of a sudden, every NFL team is one bad hire away from sinking right back down to the bottom of the league. We've seen it a ton in Washington. You've seen it a ton in Dallas. You've seen it a ton of all these different franchises. Just a bad coaching hire can ruin you for 3 or 4 years, if not longer.
We saw it 2 weeks ago, I think, with Ben Johnson going to the Bears and then hiring Bieniemy. I don't get that one. We saw it with Duval down in Jacksonville. I don't get that. There's a bunch of those, and you're absolutely right, Bill. But I think Andy, like the culture there, it's a good point. I don't know where they go from there because they haven't bled assistants the way some of the other franchises have. But it's a good point. Like if Andy's not there and Mahomes is just kind of left to Aaron Rodgers the situation, right? To just pick his own guy and call his own shot. Okay, well, the Jets just brought in a coach who basically said, we don't want you anymore, Aaron Rodgers, right? And it changes things. And apparently it looks like Aaron may be on his way to Pittsburgh, which is crazy, or maybe even Tennessee, which is even crazier. So I don't know. It's the NFL. Welcome to the offseason, the one area where Washington fans excel. at deciphering the code. Bill, thank you for hanging out. I got one more for you, and then we'll let you go.
Sure.
George Mason basketball, amazing. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, still sitting at number 1, right?
Yes, correct.
A10, 19 and 4?
19 and 5.
All right.
Yep. 19 and 5, 10 and 1 in the conference right now. 9 straight wins after the victory over Rhode Island on Saturday. Got 7 votes in the AP Top 25 this week, which, again, it's been a long time since we've had that going on. Yeah, I mean, all credit to Coach Tony Skinn, who's turned this thing around in less than 2 years. He came in, brought in guys, said this is the way we're going to do things and no nonsense, and we're going to play defense, and that's what they've done, and they have been impressive all the way through the season. A couple of close losses, overtime down at East Carolina, and a 1-point loss to Central Michigan on a banked-in 3-pointer with 3 seconds to go, or they'd be sitting there, 21-3 right now. So it's looking good. Obviously, still a lot of games left in the regular season, and then the A-10 tournament there in Washington, D.C. But I feel the floor right now for this team is probably the NIT. The ceiling is the NCAA and maybe even a winner.
I love it. As a Mason grad, that one special run is very, very special. Tony obviously Coach Skinn was a huge part of that run under Coach Larinaga. I was a student at the time, and I remember the euphoria on campus.
Absolutely.
We drive past it all the time. My kids are always asking, "What happens over there? Is that where you went to school?" I'm like, "Yes, let me tell you a story." And then of course they zone out completely.
2004.
Yeah, that's right. And then they zone out completely. But Bill, thank you so much for making time for us. Hopefully we'll get you back on your shoe, and really, really appreciate you carving out some time and jumping in with us. And we'll do it again soon.
Yeah, so FP Joe, thank you guys as always. You just reach out, and if I can make it happen, we'll do it.
Thank you so much, Bill.
You got it, guys. Have a great week.
Thank you. See ya. So FP, what do you want to talk about after? I mean, what's the next thing to talk about here? We had what, 10 good minutes, 15 good minutes. I think that should be our branded segment, by the way, for guests when we bring them in. We'll call it 10 good minutes, but then it actually goes like 30. I think it'd be great. But Bill, there's so nice having an actual professional broadcaster jump in and be like, let me tell you what you're missing, and then just boom, 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 boom. Obviously he's on the road. I mean, and again, thank you to him for making time. He's carving out time. He's on the road prepping to call Mason St. Louis tomorrow. But, now that the game is over, where everything is kind of in the rear view, all the noise starts to kind of fade away here. We do have other sports that are happening. I mean, the NBA last week dominated headlines.
Yeah.
I'm not going to put you on the spot to talk NBA. I can see
I'm right. The DTC chat was lively with NBA chat, hockey chat.
We made a couple changes in the chat, and all of a sudden everybody's coming out of, well, I got an opinion. It was great. It was nice to see. But the NBA, I mean, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday last week leading up to the deadline, the trade deadline, I mean, that was the most interesting the NBA has been in a long time. Am I wrong?
It got my attention, and I started paying attention to it. It even had me tuning into the Wizards games the last few games I know it's not going to be super enjoyable, but based on some of those moves that they were making and kind of stacking the deck for their rebuild, I like the
moves.
I like the moves.
I like the Marcus Smart move.
Yeah, my whole thing was, to anybody thinks that we're going to tank to get the first overall lottery pick, I don't think that's actually going to happen. I think you're going to hope you get the first overall lottery pick and that you get Flag, but I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think he's going to come to this team, but I do like the way that this front office has been taking so many contracts and second round picks and flipping them for ones.
Why do you think it won't happen? I mean, this is a very interesting spot that the Wizards are actually trying to win, but they are not good enough to do it.
Yes.
Whereas Utah is good enough to win games, and their coach is calling timeouts because the players are about to win a game, and he doesn't want shots to count. So a little bit different situation there, but as it stands right now, if I'm not mistaken, the Wizards are the worst team by a margin of 4 games. Like that's a pretty big jump. I mean, why? I mean, I think they're going to be in the Flag sweepstakes. No,
I just don't think. And this is tinfoil hat. We need Andy here, Mr. Conspiracy Theory. But it's just I don't think the NBA wants generational player, and I hate that freaking term. I don't think they want them to come to. Yeah, but I don't think they want them to come such a small market as DC. The thing with DC is it's small market, but if you get that John Wall,
it booms.
It booms, yeah. But it's a very boom or bust market, and I think I don't know.
But where are you going to send him? Chicago. Chicago's been a dead city since Derrick Rose was. Derrick Rose was their guy. They stink. The 76ers have actual talent. They stink. You want more talent going to Philly?
Now you're getting into the real conversation that kind of everything in the NBA kind of stinks. Every market stinks if you're not LA, Boston, or New York.
Well, I think you got to give Cleveland some credit here because they've maintained winning.
They're doing fantastic, yes.
Yeah, like life post LeBron for them was painful, and then it's improved. Look at OKC. I mean, they haven't even lost 10 games yet this season. They built
OKC. I would mirror closest to what the Wizards could become, young and scrappy, and suddenly take the league by storm.
They have the pieces there to make it interesting, right? I mean, Bub is. I've been big on Bub since the beginning of the season. And his shooting has improved. There was an article in the Athletic last Wednesday or Thursday saying that teams have officially changed their scouting report when it comes to Bub. Right? They used to say force him into the lane or force him to do a pull up jump shot, but he's improved over 30-40 games, and he's making those mid range shots now. Nobody shoots mid range shots. Bub's shooting them, and he's making them. The Wizards were able to offload some. I don't want to say no talent players, but some no talent players and some disgruntled ones as well. I love the Middleton trade. People forget that this guy was basically a Finals MVP like 3 seasons.
It was 5 minutes. And that may have been one of the most lively conversations that our offline chat has ever had. Of would you rather have Kuz or Middleton? I don't think. I
don't understand the argument for Kuzma. I
don't. Aside from one person that had a voice that was pro Kuzma, everybody was saying Middleton's the way to go. I mean, it was just the whole set of things happening, and it was just amazing to see and amazing to witness. And you're kind of like recalculating all of the assets that the Wizards have and everything that's happening, and finally smart free agency moves. I posed the question, and I was shocked to say it, but based on how fast the Caps turned it around, rebuild on the fly, based on what we're seeing with the Wizards, based on what we're seeing with Adam Peters, and kind of based on what Stevie has been trying to tell me without me actually listening, is the Nationals are their rebuild is going to happen faster than a lot of people expected, hopefully.
Yeah, well,
it's at a point now where who gets all of the complaints from DC fans about the front office? Like, because at this point, I think this is the best front office.
It's the most
across all 4 teams.
Yes, because even at the height of the last, like the Nationals winning the World Series was an unscripted,
right,
like Cinderella situation. To some extent, the Capitals doing it too. Like that wasn't. Like I know there were expectations, but very few had them going, winning the whole thing.
Absolutely.
And it happened so closely together. So it is interesting to think, okay, the Wizards, I guess, would have to be the weakest front office right now, right?
I would say that, but based on what we've seen in the last 2 weeks,
I don't know.
Do you really think? I don't think it's a weak front office for the Wizards anymore.
I mean, I personally, I like the moves. I think Middleton is going to give you a veteran. Him and Marcus Smart give you a veteran presence and people that are stabilizing forces in your locker room. Now, if they don't want to be here and they're going to be disgruntled, that's a different problem. But you still offloaded some contracts and some pieces that you weren't going to get a ton of value for anyway. So personally, I would take it. Like you really can't be any worse than you're constructed currently. You give Bilal, you give Bub, you give Sar some pieces at least around them to help them learn how to be professionals. I think it's fine, because if you do end up winning the ping pong lottery and going and drafting Cooper Flagg, you yet again, like, yes, you're resetting the franchise to some extent, but you have to have some veteran presence in here. And I'll say what everybody's thinking but won't say. Jordan Poole's not that guy.
No,
he's too busy creating hats and T-shirts and designing jerseys. Like, Jordan Poole is a fascinating case study to me of a player, a very average player on a team starved for talent, where the city isn't paying attention, that is empowered by management because he's the best they've got.
Yeah.
Like, he is not worthy of the attention, the dollars, the marketing, and the hype around him. He is not he's not that guy. He just isn't. Am I wrong?
Yeah, there's nothing about, like, I mean, even when you watch some of his plays, like even the commentators, they'll I love the saying now, they'll glaze up like one pass that he does all game, and it's a nothing burger. Like
Or he hits a 3 and he's
yeah,
like, oh,
he does like bare minimum, and the commentary is like, oh, that was amazing from Poole, but like we're losing 35 to the Atlanta Hawks or whatever. Like, it's not a big deal.
Yeah. I mean, it's fine. Like, they needed to do something to this roster. They did it. Whatever. We'll see how it plays out. They're currently losing right now. Let me pull up a box score here. Let me see in real time.
Spurs, right?
They got It's Wemby and it's all the French cousins. They're all playing each other right now.
Bub versus Wemby.
Yeah, they got him at 1. Not just Bub. It's Sar and Bilal. All French. All French national. All teammates on the French national team.
No, I think the last time Bub played Wemby, he took it to him. He played him well.
If you say so. They're currently losing by 10 with 30 seconds to go. Yeah. So this one's pretty much
RIP.
Yeah, it's done. But have you watched any Lakers basketball in the last half week or so? Just to see I don't know why Luka's scooting around on a scooter. I don't know what's going on with that now too.
I mean, I haven't watched Lakers, but I did tune into AD's first game of the Mavs and saw him immediately get hurt and be out for a month.
Yeah, I mean, street clothes Davis. I mean, this is his reputation, is that he is off injured, right? And here it is yet again rearing its head. So yeah, that's not a good look. Look. Did you happen to catch Mark Cuban on stage doing an interview with Bill Gates?
Yes.
Yeah. How would you feel if you left Microsoft or sold Microsoft or whatever,
and they traded Windows 11 for Windows 10 or whatever he said,
and then tried to convince you that this was the right move to make, right? It is fascinating how many people are, like, obviously from the Lakers perspective, this is a no-brainer, right? You're resetting your franchise on the fly. You're in a position now where you can kiss LeBron and his kid goodbye whenever you're ready and build this whole thing around Luka. But they also won. They were able to rescind their trade with Charlotte. Did you see that? I haven't actually seen that happen before. That trade was rescinded. Like,
I did not see that.
Yeah, so they had this whole trade in place to acquire a center. They were going to trade Dalton Connect for Mark West and blah blah blah, and then it unhappened. So okay, so like they re-improved, because that was actually a really bad trade for them. But I don't know. Like, the league needs the Lakers to be good. The league also needs LeBron to go away. I firmly believe now that, like, if there's anyone left to defend LeBron and his legacy and his value to the league, I want to bring them on the show and talk to them, because at this point, it's only causing harm. Am I wrong here? I can't watch him. I don't want to listen to him talk. I don't want to watch him or pretend to read a book. I don't want to see his kid, get a guaranteed contract for nothing, apparently, as a second-round pick. It's crap. It's all crap.
You can almost go full circle and relate it back to the Super Bowl, where Tom Brady was around the league for forever and people hated him, but they hated him because he was hands down absolutely the GOAT, the best, no debate with it, right? And then everybody hates the Chiefs because they're around, but they're just so annoying and in your face and unlikable, and just they never go away. But they're also really, really good and always win. That's kind of what's happening with LeBron. Is he's not the GOAT, and I don't think anybody is going to keep saying that, because you can always find 1,000 different ways to spin the facts that he's not doing what Jordan did with more time in the league, right? And he just doesn't go away.
I can't listen to the Jordan debate anymore.
He doesn't go away. He's always around, and there's always some kind of narrative with him bigger than basketball that everyone just rolls their eyes and they're like, just get this man off my TV.
Does things that make you like want to just, I'm not gonna say I want to hit him. I want to hit myself. Like, have you seen him brush his hair?
5,000 times.
There's nothing there, LeBron.
Yeah.
What's happening here? I want the Temu version of LeBron, the one that's all over my social media. I want him to come and like just hang out next to him. Like, I would watch that Lakers game if Temu LeBron and regular LeBron were just hanging out on the side.
Now we're gonna get the passive aggressive side eye between him and Luka. because I don't think they're going to mesh at all.
But you know what? If you're in charge of the Lakers, if you're part of that front office or that organization, you're done with LeBron. Like,
Yeah,
you're not.
Take a seat, old man. We'll call you if the
40.
playoffs happen.
Like, it's been real. It's time for maybe you and Kevin can go. You and Durant can go team up finally for one last hurrah in Washington or somewhere else far away from us. Luka's 25. He's going to be there for the next 10 without question.
He was looking pretty in shape during the jersey photo shoot that he had. But
I mean, it doesn't take. I mean, I don't want to point any fingers here, but when you're regularly drinking, consuming alcohol, beer in particular, and then you stop for a week or so, you unbloat real fast, like real fast, right? So
yeah.
I also wanted to, not to go too deep into the NBA stuff here. I feel like I'm about to test your.
Are you gonna hit me with conspiracy theory in Vegas?
It's not no conspiracy theory here. I want to talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers because obviously LeBron leaves them and goes to LA and all the and they go through this dark season. Donovan Mitchell comes over. They quietly got a lot better as well. The Cavs 41-10 in the Eastern Conference. They traded for DeAndre Hunter from the Hawks. Low key, I know Luka's the bigger name. This was the actual bigger value add because this was the one hole the Cavs could not defend the wing, and they got a guy now that can do it. So I like it. People are going to talk about Jimmy Butler going to Golden State as a bigger deal, and it's fair. Did you see what Golden State did over the weekend on Saturday night?
No,
they were down by 22 in the third quarter. And they they were down 18 in the third quarter, ended up winning the game by 22. Just turned it on, just like that. Boom. And they were gone. So it'll be interesting. The NBA is at least interesting now with some of these new pieces here and there, right?
But the thing with the Cavs is they did a rebuild with no major trade packages. Yes. They just rebuilt. Yeah.
Yeah, they got serviceable pieces and then were very wise about how they traded. I mean, Chicago got a lot worse in my opinion. Apparently, the Wizards were sniffing around. The Suns put Bradley Beal's contract out there, and there was only two teams interested: the Blazers and the Wiz. I don't know how much I'm buying in that, but it's fine. It's fine.
I'm so glad he's gone.
Honestly, I would love to see John Wall. Even it's a circus, right? I mean, no one actually believes he's better than the guards you've got on the roster, but
it'll give viewers.
He means something to
You'll
the city.
Get jersey sales if you can give me all of the new DC Connect jerseys that they apparently have every 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. I would buy a couple that had Wall on it.
Why is he so beloved though? Like what is it about John? Like I can't,
because after Agent Zero left,
boom boom, pow pow.
Yeah, there's giant void, and then you get your lottery pick of John Wall, who immediately hit the court and was just doing magical John Wall things. He just never stopped until the injury took him out.
That's true. He I don't know. The way he jumped on the table and just embodied DC. DC wanted a champ. They needed a hero. We needed a hero.
And at the time, listen, you had Ovi. But the Caps were under the radar good. And that's when you're getting president's trophies and all this stuff. But NHL at large, you weren't in the golden era that you are now. So that kind of went under the radar. Wall was what you needed, right? DC had nothing. Maybe Kirk.
I mean, but with the Celtics and the green invasion and don't wear black in my town. There was things I feel like that Wall did to him, just
they gave the Wizards a voice.
Something.
He gave us an edge. Yeah.
How do you feel about the Wizards name? This was something I had buried in my one sheet a couple weeks ago. Do you think at some point Commanders becomes like Wizards, where it's just the name and we kind of move on? Do you still actively hate Wizards?
I don't hate it because of the overall rebrand that came. I hated it when it was first introduced, and I hated the black and gold and star glitter dust logo. Mm-hmm. But then the rebrand made me like it, and it just felt like it fit into the city more. The actual name, you forget about it because you're just gonna call them DC. And
Yeah,
the
they don't
logo,
actually-
when they embrace the DC hands up logo, you're good, right? Like you don't have to say Wizards. You don't have to say Commanders. You could just say Washington or DC or whatever. And as long as it's paired with winning, nobody cares.
That's fair too. I think the rebrand. I mean, the Wizards go out of their way not to put Wizards on
Yes.
any where possible, right? They, like you said, they use the DC hands logo.
District, DC.
They use the Wizard Merlin face guy, which is kind of, or G-Wiz or whatever his name is. That one's kind of good too. Yeah, I the Commanders. I mean, I know it's still a hot topic around here. I think most fans want the 3-stripe jersey,
gold
the 3-stripe
mask.
helmet, and the gold face mask. I think you just get us the right colors.
Give me
I don't know why they
2.0.
changed. Why did we change the colors? Why did we change the colors?
Give me Gibbs 1.0.
And no more trash bag black. Retire that forever, please.
I have one more NBA question for you because I saw this on ESPN, and me, a non-serious fan watcher, was like, "What the hell is ESPN doing?"
Okay.
Do you consider Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, and Steph as a big three?
I do not.
I don't think anybody on the planet is considering Draymond included in a big three.
No.
Okay.
Except ESPN, which has so much money invested in the NBA and the NFL too, but in the NBA in particular, they have to create, even if it's fake hype, they have to create something around it. There has to be marketing dollars spent on making somebody pay attention to these games in prime time. Think about it. With the NFL, they have 4 or 5 talking head shows about one game a week.
Mm-hmm.
The NBA, you've got the same number of talking heads, talking, but there's so much more happening. And I think in general, people can't, nobody has time to consume. I'll speak for myself. I can't consume 3 Wizards games a week. I can't do it. I don't physically have the time I used to have to do that, but I'm their key demo, right? Even the best teams in the league, think about having season tickets to the Cavaliers or to the Thunder, teams that you would want to see. Who actually is going to the stadium, to the arena 3 times a week or 5 times in 2 weeks? That is an immense amount of time spent. Maybe
Depends on your fanhood. I mean, Cap One is always filled to the brim with the red jerseys.
I mean, how many of them are season ticket holders from Northern Virginia that are there every
really good amount?
That's fair. I don't know. It always hits me. It always dawns on me like the amount of effort it takes to be a season ticket holder to any of the. I mean, the Nationals, the same thing. Who can be there for 80 games?
Yeah, but you're not expecting to go to all the games. And I mean, baseball, Stevie does it himself, right? He'll pop in on a random 2:30. He'll go all the time.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Matt is very excited about the Mets because they're supposed to be really good, but we say that every year. Stevie, when I talked to him a little bit, it's actually his birthday. When I talked to him a little bit today, he was a little down. He was a little down on the Nationals. He's like, yeah, there's expectations in this city, given what we just went through with with the Commanders, right? That Rizzo's going to put a winning product, out there, and it's a little behind. I mean, that was his take anyway. I mean, I think we're 10 days or so out now from the pitchers and the catchers and all that jazz. I don't know. Those boys are so excited to talk about it. FPI. I don't know what we're
baseball. Like the NBA pulled me a little bit in. Baseball's still so far out there for me.
How far are we on Ovi Watch? What's left? How many left? How many?
16 goals.
I mean, what are we thinking? Like by mid-April?
Mid-April, yeah, probably.
So right by the end of the season. So it's in view.
It's in view.
On radar.
And this is after missing time with an injury and being
with a broken leg.
And being as old as dust and having a Luca diet of fettuccine Alfredo and beers. It's just
Is he done after this one if he gets it? You think he's got one?
I think if he gets it and we can go deep into the playoffs and hopefully compete for a Stanley Cup, that might be his swan song. It doesn't get better than that.
No, I mean, if a win, if you got
Stanley Cup win and that record, it doesn't get better than that.
It's done.
But mind you, the last time the Eagles won the Super Bowl, 4 months later, the Caps did. So they won their Stanley Cup. Fun tidbit for you.
So it makes me a little excited. I gotta be honest.
We're up there, top of the league.
Anything to plug before we hang up on each other?
No, I think now we're getting into some green episodes that we're going to start putting out. I'm excited for some of the stuff we have lined up.
Yes, we've got a cookie challenge. We got Taste My Cookie coming up next week. Andy's on the hook to go first. So for those that are following along, we'll be posting a cookie probably on Thursday or Friday. So right when you go out there to get your snacks for the weekend, you grab a box of cookies. You can eat it with us on. We'll rate the cookies live. We haven't come up exactly with a scale. I think it's a 1 to 5 scale, but we have that coming up. I think we're going to do a little movie club too. I don't know what we're going to call that one, but I think we'll go around the horn every 2 weeks or so. Somebody pick a movie for us. This started unofficially. I picked one and then it mysteriously disappeared off HBO and everybody got pissed at me. I picked it on a Thursday or a Friday and then everybody went to watch it on a snowy Saturday. And they're like, F you, Joe. It's gone. It's not available anymore. We're not paying $3 for this. So yeah, maybe we got a couple things planned. And obviously we've got baseball around the corner. We've got the best part of the NBA season is basically about 3 weeks away post All-Star weekend. I haven't watched the dunk contest in forever.
We're also going to get March Madness with Mason and Maryland.
Yeah, but Maryland is playing great. I'm so glad we got to talk to Bill a little bit too. I mean, but Mason's on fire. I mean, the A-10 tournament, Stevie's alma mater too is George Washington is whatever. I'm not going to hype them up, but
it's a good time for Mid-Atlantic sports, surprisingly.
It is. But the team that matters here is the Commanders, and they're officially on the clock now, making we're 3-4 weeks away, right? I think March 1st is when the official tampering can begin.
Yeah.
And the storylines are already, we had stuff swirling last week, with Garrett, with T. Higgins. There was a couple running backs too that we were discussing. So
I want Micah.
Well, I mean, they were all just hanging out like as if they're friends. You know what I love about Jaden? And this is the last thing I'll say. In all the Super Bowl coverage where he popped up, this is going to sound rude, but I don't mean it to be rude. He doesn't look comfortable talking to people. He's just a football guy.
Yeah.
When they put him in front of the hologram thing with the quarterbacks running, he got like all 10, and got him quick. Like, oh, that's Patrick. Oh, that's Lamar. Oh, that's whatever. He loves football. You put him in a room or in front of a microphone with stupid Ocho Cinco and Micah, and he just clams up. He's like, I don't know. He just feels like a 24-year-old who just wants to get back to playing football.
Sign me up to be put in a room with Kay Adams, though.
I know she's special. I know.
Yeah.
I know. Thanks for making time, FP. Thank you very much, sir. We'll do this again soon. My name is Joe. The show is DTC Defeating the Curse. Special thanks to Bill Rohland for hanging out with us on the road and giving us 10 good minutes today. That was great. If you missed any part of that interview and that chat with Bill, you can get the show on any platform you stream your podcast. You can get us on Spotify. You can get us on Apple Podcasts. You can get us on Amazon. You can tell Alexa to play the latest episode of yada yada. She will pull it right up. You can also watch live anytime or play it back actually on Facebook, on X, and on YouTube. Thank you for hanging out with us. Until the next time, we are out. Congratulations, Pete from Philly and Phil from Philly and Dan from Philly. Please stop texting me. And talk to you all soon. We're out.